As I mentioned, my name is Ian Nicholson. I'm based in Calgary, Alberta. I've got many years of experience working on risk and turnarounds. Joining me today and doing most of the heavy work is Mary Lynn Backstrom, who's one of our implementation specialists and also has a great number of years working in project management and specifically in turnarounds. So shutdowns and turnarounds are very challenging projects. There tends to be a lot of lost production and revenue when the turnaround's going on. There's a great deal of money being spent for labor and material while the turnaround's going on, and that naturally leads to high management visibility. Now, plants worldwide tend to be aging, which means they need more repairs. There's more technical upgrades required to keep them current, which leads to a lot of CapEx tie-ins on our turnarounds. We have longer shutdown turnaround cycles, which lead to more work being done during the shutdown or turnaround. It needs to be done in a shorter period of time. And the reality is that it's getting harder and harder to find resources to do the work because we have an aging workforce and we have less young people coming into the trades. A typical schedule that we deal with on these kind of projects can be 80,000 tasks, 1.2 million man hours, and it has to be done in 35 days. And these are numbers from one of my clients that's doing a turnaround right now, actually. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done, and it needs to be done in a very short period of time. So what we need to be able to facilitate that is we need fast, accurate updates to the schedule. And Primavera, for all the things that it's very good at, is not good at fast, accurate updating. It tends to be a very slow manual process that's quite likely to lead to errors. We need to be able to do earned value reporting, and we need to do earned value reporting right down to the resource level. Again, P6 is good at doing earned value, but it only does it at the activity level. So it's not doing that down to the resource assignment level. So TAPS will drive the earned value calculations down to the resource level so you can look at earned value across resources or resource groups. We need to be able to manage canceled work. A few years ago, I was working with Shell, and they told me that canceling an activity in Primavera, by the time they do all the steps required, takes about 5 minutes. Now, 5 minutes isn't a big deal on when you do one activity, but if you've got to cancel 100 activities, it becomes a significant volume of work that needs to be done. So we need a way to automate that and do it very quickly and easily. We need more time for our schedulers to do analysis. I think we've all been in a trailer working away on a turnaround and something's gone wrong, like the printer is jammed or a report hasn't come in or power goes out, and you can just feel the stress level go up inside in the room. And what we really need is we need people to be able to get the progress in and have time to analyze it before they have to run the reports and send them out to the field again. So TAPS has all these benefits. It speeds things up, it makes things more accurate, it gives people more time to do the value add work rather than just doing data entry. So how does it work? Well, there's a couple of things that TAPS does. The first thing is TAPS can be used on-premise, or it can be used if you're in a cloud environment. It works on either one. So it works either through the Primavera APIs or through Primavera Web Services. So the process that we go through with TAPS is we start off by generating a report. Now you'll notice that these reports probably look a lot like the reports that you work with every day, except we embed barcodes into those reports. And those barcodes mean that we can use a scanner to get to the activities that we want to update. Now, by the way, I'm talking right now about the classic version of TAPS. We also have a TAPS mobile version that we're going to talk about, where you can actually do everything through a connected device like a phone or a tablet. But this is how the classic version works. You also run a percentage report where you define the percentages that you will accept. Now you can do everything from 1% to 100% if you want to, but usually during shutdowns and turnarounds, people have rules like they'll say, you know, if you start the activity, you can claim 10%, and then maybe we do 25, 50, 75, 99, and 100%. 99 being a useful number because it means we think the work's going to be done this shift, but we need the next shift to confirm that it was in fact completed. Now you can also create barcodes for complete, for cancel, to take work right out of the schedule, or to remove work or remove activities that you've already scanned. Now, once the status reports come in from the field, they're all marked up. We can very quickly get those statuses into P6. And the way that we do that is we scan the task. So we scan the barcode for the individual activity, and then we scan the percent complete. So basically we do a double scan for each one that we want to update. So scan the activity, scan the percentage, scan the next activity, scan the percentage. Once we've done that, TAPS will show you the results. We can review the list, make sure that it makes sense, and then we can save the progress to Primavera. Now, there's a couple of other options here on the screen. You can update milestones. So if all the activities coming up to a milestone are complete, it'll mark the milestone as complete as well. You can also tell TAPS to run an out of sequence report. So if you've actually gone and scanned some activities and not scanned the predecessors, TAPS will run an out of sequence report, which will tell you these are all the ones that you probably should have progressed, and then you can quickly clean those up. Once it's been scanned and you submit it, your progress shows up in P6. So very fast, very easy. We think it's probably about 5 to 10 times faster than actually going in P6, doing a Control F, typing in the activity ID, going to the activity, clicking the started box, clicking the completed box, all those things that you have to do in P6. With TAPS, it's just 2 scans of the barcode reader. Now, one of the things that you can also do with once you have all that information in is you can run dashboards and all sorts of other things. Again, this is all part of giving people more time to analyze the data and make sure that it makes sense and feed it to management in a more streamlined way because of all the time saving that you'll get with TAPS. So let's take a look. I'm going to hand it over to Mary Lynn, and Mary Lynn is going to take us through in some detail the way that TAPS works. And if you have any questions or anything, then you can feel free to ask them. We have a question section on the chat. Feel free to type them in and we'll take them at the end. And I'm just going to hand control over to Mary Lynn. You should have control, Mary Lynn.
Yep, I do. I'm just going to share my screen here and we will have a look at this. Okay, so everybody should be able to see P6 now. So the reason I started off in P6 is because I just wanted to show you the little sample file that we will post some progress to. So if you're going into P6, of course, we've all been down this road. If we go into P6 and we want to update an activity, in our little sample file, it's fairly small, but most turnaround schedules are very large. So if we're going in to find an activity, we may well have to do the click into a column, Control F, type in the activity ID or what you know of the activity ID, and look for it. Now, once you've located it, of course, you need to go to the right tab. You need to give it a start, for example, a finish. So we've statused that one manually. That took a few seconds. That when you multiply that out by the number of activities you're going to have to deal with, it can be, as Ian was mentioning, a very, very long process. So where you get, of course, the biggest return on your time is getting those updates into the software as quickly and accurately as possible and having the time to analyze it. So from there, where I want to go is let's go to TAPS itself and have a look at what putting an update in using TAPS would look like. Now you'll notice I've got 2 tabs here. They are 2 logins. First of all, I'm going into the classic TAPS. So we're going to be using the barcode just like you saw on the slides. So I just log in. Now I need to set my update time, which is basically the data date. So I'm going to put the first update in. Now this particular one is going to be the 9th of August and 8 p.m. But you can set it at whatever works with your schedule, of course. So for what I'm going to use here, I'll just use 8 p.m. That's our first update. I'm going to leave the defaults on, update milestones. Personally, I really like this one. I've worked many turnarounds where they weren't using taps, and this was a separate check we had to run because there's nothing worse than, well, there is other worse things, I'm sure, but it's not a nice thing, we'll put it that way, to go through your updates and start issuing reports and look at the milestone report and find out one or two of them have been missed. It's not a pleasant feeling. You have to backtrack, get them in, and then start the whole process again. Run out a sequence report, we're fine with that. So what I need to do now is simply scan. So I know you can't see exactly what I'm doing, but it's just the same process as Ian was describing on the slides. I'm scanning, first of all, the activity. So I have an activity here that is 75%. So scan the activity, scan the percent, on to the next. So I scan the next activity. Now this activity is a little different. We are going to update this one using steps. Now this is all functionality available to you, so whatever scenario you're running, you need to just, of course, use what's applicable to what you need. So what I'm going to do here, I've got 4 steps on this activity, and this activity is complete. So what I want it to do, of course, is complete the 4 steps. Now, if you've had to status schedules and you've been using steps, that is something that can get very tedious. So what we've got here, we've got our first activity, 75%, second activity, all 4 steps have been completed. And you'll notice that automatically completes the activity, something that a lot of versions of P6 by themselves don't do for you. So from here, all I need to do is click Save. It tells me that the updates went across, gives me the out of sequence report. So we're not going to worry about the out of sequence report right at the moment, but you can see it does give you all of that information. So what I'm going to do here is just click back, and we'll just go out of here and go back to P6. So if I go in, and I'm just going to change the layout for a second, and we'll go to one that will give us some of the update columns really easy to see here. So what I want to do first, you can see we've got install scaffolding has been updated, and I'm just going to hit F5 to refresh. Now you can see if I go down a little bit here, I'll just bring them up to make it a little easier to read. SD110, SD120, those are the 2 we updated. Well, 120, here's my 75% remaining 4, and SD110 is 100% complete. This is the one that had the steps on it. So if I go and look, all those steps have been completed. So it's a very easy way because I can go in and rather than scan complete on the step, I could scan 50%, I could scan whatever I need on there as well, and it would address it appropriately. So you've got all of that, those different pieces available. Now at that point, of course, we didn't have much for updates. We could go in here and we could reschedule our project. So this particular one, if we wanted to go in and schedule it and do our analysis, we can. Now, what happens, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to schedule this one, and I need to set it to 8 p.m. because that is what we were using. And then what we'll do is we'll put another update in. And while that's scheduling, one of the things that you can see just behind our schedule box, I just want to point out here, we did have that option of progressing milestones for
I think
us.
we might have lost you, Mary Lynn.
Oh,
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes, I can hear you. I don't know if you can hear me anymore here, so just one second. Did that help any? No? Okay. Oh, Paul says he can hear me. Can nobody else? Is it just Ian that doesn't hear me? Okay, Ian said it must be just him, so I will carry on. So my apologies. I just thought if nobody could hear me, I would try and restart the screen share. But if we're good, that's awesome. We'll carry on. So the other element I wanted you to be aware of here is just the milestones here. So we have that setting that says if you complete or start the activity and there's start to start, that sort of scenario, it will update the milestones for you. So you can see that's been done for us as well. So let's go in and put another update in here. So I've gone back to tabs. Now I have gone in and just used basically the same login I used the first time. You can definitely log out, log back in again. It's going to be the same effect. So the first update was just getting started. So this one, not a huge update, but we do have more information. The first thing I need to do, of course, is I want to set this to the next day because we're going to do the night shift here. So we've set our date. I'm not going to worry about resetting any of these options right at the moment because that dissolve canceled activities logic, we'll have a look at that when we go over and look at the mobile side of tabs. So we have another update. Well, basically we can go in here and don't forget, we're going back and forth into P6 to see what the updates look like. But you don't necessarily have to do that. You can actually have somebody do the scans who doesn't log into P6. They don't have to know how to run P6 at all. They just need to understand what they're scanning in and away they go. So this next update, my first activity is complete. Second activity, 25%. Third activity, likewise, 25%. One more, 25%. Then I have two that are showing up on my report as complete. Now I have one here. This next one, my report says 99%. Well, of course, as Ian indicated, we have that available as well. So you can customize the percentages according to what you need. And I have the next one as complete. Now we've put status on a fair number of activities fairly quickly. We've just got a few more to do here. And the next one that we're going to do, this particular one has resources on it that they want to scan in. Now, again, it's functionality that's available to you. If you don't need it, you don't need to use it, but it's there. So it's always handy to know. So if I go into this particular activity and I'm completing it, but I want to scan the resources, I can do that as well. Or if they weren't complete, I could scan in actuals, that sort of information. So just so you know, all of those pieces are available. Now, I have just a couple more to do here. This particular activity is the one we started out giving 75%. It is now complete. I have my next activity here. One thing I wanted you to be aware of, you'll see you've got a column on the screen that says percent type. This one is physical percent. We can scan, as we mentioned, any of the percent complete types. So if I want to scan an update to this one is physical percent complete. They're saying 75%. And then, of course, because if you're using physical, you need to give it 2 pieces of information. So what they're using here is they're saying 75% complete, and we've got remaining 8. So you can scan that piece in as well. The last but not least, we have one more activity. This one is units percent complete, and they're saying 50%. And in this case, they're saying, okay, we can also update the other required piece of information by just scanning duration 50. So we've got our second update in there complete, ready to send it over to P6. So all I need to do again is save. And it'll send all the information over to P6. I do have out of sequence, and I knew this piece was coming. The update was designed like that. So if I wanted to, I could take this and go through, call whoever I needed to for verification if some of these activities actually should have been included in my update. It gives you that option right here. So what I can do now, I'm not going to worry about cleaning those up. Let's just go and look at the actual updates we put in. So for this time, I'm going to log out of Classic Taps because the next one we'll do in the mobile side. But before we go there, let's go back to P6 and let's refresh so we can see what these updates look like. So now you can see that there is another milestone here that has been actualized because of the updates. You can see, of course, in the Gantt area, we've got more updates in here. But if I look at the information as I go down, for example, I've got a couple of 100%. And by the way, this piece where things disappear off my screen, that is my laptop. That has nothing to do with taps. My laptop just decides to have attitude once in a while, so please just bear with me and ignore it when it does that. So when I look at all of the information here, now we've got different pieces of information that are happening for our use. And a lot of these are going to help you with what usually happens when you do updates in P6. So I've got activity percent complete, units, duration. You can see all the percentages that I've sent across, the actual dates, because here's our 25% ones that we did. So we've got actual dates on the ones started. We got actual finishes on the ones that are finished. But what happens when we look at one of the activities, for example, that's finished, and we go into the resources? Well, of course, it's got the actuals in here, but I'm going to change layouts here for a second because there is some more information that I would like you to be aware of. It is extremely helpful, and it's not just in this layout I'm going to open that it's available. You can create a number of different reports, things like that, that can let you use this information very, very easily and very, very quickly. So I'm just going to try and pull this up a little bit. There we go. So we've got our activity level columns at the top. So when we're talking about the activity level, Ian did mention that when we go into P6, it is going to calculate earned value, labor units, earned value, cost. It's going to calculate that information at the activity level. Well, we can also access it and display it at the resource level. So when you put your updates in, and instead of going in here and changing this layout, my apologies, I will just flip over to another layout. It looks like I snagged not quite the right one when I came in here, and my apologies for that. Let's fix that piece. So if I look at my earned value layout and just get it to open another layout. Now, basically, you've got the same columns as that other layout. I just created one that's got the TAPS columns already in here rather than walk through putting them in. So when we look at the resources, TAPS earned units, you've got TAPS earned labor cost, you've got all the information across by resource. So that information, as soon as you've put your updates in there, all of that information, even when there is more than one resource, you'll see that you've got your earned value, TAPS earned value. This is resource by resource. So these fields here that you're seeing in this resource tab are available for reporting. So you can fashion a number of different reports, and we're going to look at, once we go through the mobile side, we're going to look at a few reports that we have as examples in BI, but even within P6, you can look at this information. So one of the places that you can, of course, look at it is in resource assignments. So you can create resource assignments layout that have this information in them. Now, you can do it with canceled activities. You can pull all sorts of different information in different fashions. So if I go to my resource assignments, and this particular layout, I want to go in and change it. And let's look at earned value resources and open it. Okay, here is TAPS earned cost, TAPS earned labor units. I've got all my resources and the activities that they're assigned to. Now, this is not the only way that you can fashion this particular report out of resource assignments, but just keep in mind that depending on what level, how granular, and how you want to group this particular report, you do have the ability to look at earned value cost, earned value labor units on a resource by resource basis. Now, in a lot of cases, that's a very, very handy thing to be able to do. So you can see right away, it makes it extremely easy to get your updates in. So again, just to reiterate, the less time you have to spend and less frustration you have to endure getting your updates into your schedule as quickly and accurately as possible, the more time you have left to go through the analysis piece, as I always say. Okay, am I missing something? Do I need to get another update? Is something not going the way it should? So there's one more piece we want to look at here. Let's go have a look at what TAPS mobile looks like. So what we'll do, and obviously everybody can see that I can't actually show you my cell phone and do it right from my cell phone, but what I'm going to do here is go to this other login. Now, I'm just going to refresh this because it's been sitting at this screen for a while, so I just don't want it to be telling me it's timed out or anything. Now, this is what TAPS on my cell phone looks like. So this is just a way of showing you what you would see on the cell phone, not being able, of course, to use the cell phone itself. So same idea, I'm going to log in. Now you can see it looks a little different, but actually what you're giving the software for information is exactly the same. So what I want to do first here is I can go in, and if I'm going to update as of 8 a.m. on the 10th, for example, whatever your applicable data date is, you can go in and you can set it. So I can go to the 10th, 8 a.m. Now you'll notice that dialog box closes pretty quickly. No need to panic, because what I usually do is just go over here and click settings, and I can check and make sure that I've got the one I wanted when I look at my settings. Now in here, I've got the other two options that in classic tabs, they're on by default anyways. Same thing here. But in this case, let's include dissolve cancel activity logic, because we'll send an update across that has a canceled activity in it. Now, there's another section here, percentages. Well, I've got 25, 50, 75, 100. You might be looking at that thinking, okay, that's not enough. Totally agree, that's not enough. So what happens if you want, for example, 80%, 99%? I can go in and add them. So if I wanted 80, just type it, click add. If I want 99, just type it, click add. It is that easy. I've just added those percentages to the list I will have available for updating my activities. Now, once I've done that, all I need to do is click save at the bottom. It says successfully saved. I'm not sure if you see that sharing bar, and I'm going to see if I can hide it. There we go. So if I click save, it says successfully saved. So now what I need to do is I can go and look at the activities. Now, when you set up how you want to look at activities in TAPS Mobile, it saves the configuration. So it's going to remember the last configuration that was in there when you were last logged in. So what I need to do is click on this little icon. This is the file and the settings I was using the last time. I need to change that, so that's fine. I can just remove that setting and remove that one, and we'll just start with a clean slate, so to speak. So when I go into filter by, you have a number of options. I'm going to filter by project because I want to put updates into one specific project in this case. So I don't want to be flipping through the maybe 10 or 12 projects I have access to. So filter by project and click the drop down. And I know mine is near the bottom of the list. Here's my webinar file. So you can put multiples in here if you need to. For what we're going to do, I'm just going to say apply, and I'm going to set a sort by. So if I go in and click sort by, you've got a few different options. I can sort by a project code, by an activity code, or by an activity field. For what I'm going to do here, I'm going to keep it simple. I'm just going to say activity field, and it defaults to start date. I'm going to do it a little different. Let's change it. I'm going to sort by activity ID. Now you've got a reverse order available here as well. So I can just say apply. So if these are the settings we want to look at here, all I have to do is click apply. And here's my activities from the file I asked it to pull the information from. So for what we want to do for updates, it's very simple to update in here. And you can see that we've got the status showing for the ones that are complete, 99%. I did not filter out complete ones, so it's showing me everything. So I can scroll down and scroll up the list, but the one that I want to cancel, I'll do that one first. This particular one, and not that you would necessarily ever be canceling that activity, but just to show you how cancel works. So this 151121020, I could actually go in and I could click the drop down and say cancel. But I want to show you also, if I click the left hand downward pointing arrow here, beside the activity ID, it gives you access to all the information. Now, this sometimes is really handy because you may want to come in and update something or a number of things specific in here as well, that because of the settings on the activity, you want that. So you've got access to all of it, or for read purposes as well. Now, I can go in and I can say this activity has been canceled. It highlights it, and even if I roll this back up, still highlights it. So I can see status is canceled. So it gives you all that information in there. Now, if I want to update another activity here, and I'll just pick one other one, so we'll keep this fairly small. If I go to the one below, now I can roll this up or I can just scroll down, whatever's going to work best for you. Now I can go into this particular one, and this is a duration % complete. If I'm going to set this particular activity, for example, to 50%, there's my 50% information. So you can see status is in progress and all the rest of the good information that it's going to need, excuse me, in P6 to be able to do the updates for us. So once I've got my information in there, and you can go in and put as many updates in as you need to. Once you've got them in from your phone, all you need to do is click save. Now, it does do the same type of out of sequence activities. It's going to tell you if there's an issue. So you have the opportunity, of course, to go back and put more updates in there if you want to. At this point, what I'm going to do is I am going to just log out of this particular mobile on the phone, and let's have a look at what those updates look like. So let's go back into P6, which we're already there. Now what I need to do is I need to, of course, hit F5. Now the activity that we canceled, if we come down the list, it doesn't take too much to find it. You'll notice what canceling does in TAPS. It goes into P6 and it gives you canceled as the first word in the activity name. Makes it very easy to filter all that sort of information. Now, what it's doing here is it's actualizing the activity, but at 0 duration. And also, if we look at relationships, we clicked to remove the relationships from the activity. Now, what I want to do here is change layouts, because I have a layout that is going to show you some information that I think you'll find a little easier to digest here. So if I go in and I'm going to go up to the top here and I'm looking for cancel work. Now, here's the activity we canceled. And the reason I flipped over to this particular layout is because it gives you the information that it's populated here very, very easily. So TAPS canceled, and you've got the canceled flag. This, by the way, is available for reports, for filtering, that sort of information as well. And it puts a note in here, TAPS canceled on. Now, I find this date to have it available is very handy as well. Now, canceled original duration, you've got 4, and we asked it to dissolve the logic to the activity. It did, but it is preserving the information behind that move, which is also handy to have available. Now, I have one more place that I would like to visit just briefly to show you where you can pull some of this other information from as well. So if I go back into resource assignments, now that, like I mentioned, there's a number of layouts you could create, but I'm just going to show you a sample of canceled activities. So here's our canceled activity. That's the activity we canceled. There's 2 resources on there, and this will give you an idea of some of the information that P6 is holding for you in the background for reporting purposes, for reference, whatever the case is. You've got the original duration. You've got labor cost, labor units. There was no material on this activity, unfortunately. Non-labor cost, non-labor units, total cost, all of that information, whereas it is still available there for you for reference in whatever layout format you want to create it in. And we'll show you in just very shortly, actually, that you can pull some of this information over into BI reports, for example. But right in P6, the information is available. So we've pulled it to resource assignments. We've created layouts in the activities that will show you certain pieces of the canceled information. But don't forget, you can create P6 reports as well. So that's a quick look at what P6 mobile looks like. Now, I realize we're getting a little close to the end of the time. There is some reports I would like to just have a quick look with you, if I could. Now, when we update our schedules, we have the ability to create snapshots. Now, that is in Data Warehouse, which is another tool that connects directly to P6. So what we've done here is we have some canceled information. So this report in BI is pulling the information for this entire snapshot. So hours by snapshot, canceled, budgeted, and remaining. Now, this is just an example of a report, but this is one that I have had to pull on turnarounds myself. Canceled hours by WBS, if you want to break it down a little farther. You've got canceled hours by activity. And not so much this one, but this next one, I can tell you I have had to create this particular graph numbers and large numbers of times, because when you're canceling hours, when you're adding hours, that kind of thing, that's something in a turnaround you're always monitoring really closely. Well, this particular graph here on this report is pulling current hours, budgeted, and canceled. Well, we can generate this as well. If we're adding work to it, we can also have found work basically on that same one. So this piece of information I am very, very familiar with. And I find this BI report so easy because I don't have to go and generate it each time. It is going to read it right off the snapshot as soon as the snapshot's created on the file. And that doesn't take any time at all. Now we've got earned value over time. Now you can see where this is kind of handy. It's just giving you some food for thought in how you can send this P6 information over to BI reports and have people self-serve the information. They can go into the report and they can look at what that snapshot reads. Now, if I pull it over here, you can easily see the differences in some of these hours. Now, we've got a few others, and I realize we're getting a little close to the time on the webinar, so we won't go through detail by detail, but just food for thought what's available. So we've got earned value by resource and activity. And this particular one, excuse me, is in table format. I have similar in a crosstab. So you decide how it's easiest for you to use the information in your project, and you can create self-serve dashboards, self-serve information for people. So here's earned value by resource and activity. So the earned value units, you've got your activity, you've got your resource, all that sort of information. So there is a number of them here, and I'm just going to skip a couple of them and go over because there is one here on the end. This is another one that I have had to produce in turnarounds so many times. Comparison to previous update. Now, this is a tabular, but what it gives you is straight off the snapshots from your file. You've got variance to previous update, variance to the project baseline. Now, this is one I have needed to create on a number of turnarounds. We wanted to see, okay, according to the baseline, how are we tracking? Are we close? But also, the variance to the previous update. If something fell behind and you're gaining ground, you're not quite to the baseline where you should be, but you're gaining ground, very handy to know that piece of information. So those pieces, and you've got a column here tells you gains and losses, those pieces of information to have at your fingertips are oh so handy. So we've got comparison to previous. This is done in a graph. So if you prefer to digest the same type of information in graph format, you definitely can do that. And you have got same type of idea, just presented a little bit differently. This one has the activity ID percent, and it's got the EAC included in the columns, but it's very similar information. So hopefully in that short amount of time, we've given you a little bit of food for thought on what's actually available, because you've got a lot of information in P6 and you want it to be available to be useful to as many people on your team as possible, as easily as possible. So on that note, I thank you very much for joining us, and I will turn it back over. Actually, Ian, I believe, can take control of the screen.
All right. So we've taken a look at the software. I've seen a lot of different things. We've covered a lot of ground. Let's talk a little bit about the benefits that people see from TAPS. So the first thing is that, and I can't put enough on this, the thing you have the least of in a turnaround is time. And TAPS will save you time that you can use for more important things. It's kind of interesting, the comments we get from some of our customers. You know, things like the whole project team can come in at can come in a little bit later. They don't have to, the whole team doesn't have to come in at 4 a.m. to make sure they get everything ready for 7. They can come in an hour later, or you can bring less people in and still get your updating done. It also saves stress, and we all know how stressful it can be working on a turnaround. And anything that you can do to reduce that stress and give people, you know, clearer heads and more time to take a look at what's going on is incredibly valuable. You tend to get more accurate updates. What's interesting is that some of our clients actually don't get the schedulers to do the updates at all. They either get the foreman to do it directly, or they just get data entry clerks to do it. So I was kind of surprised with one of my clients where they said that they had actually they have time entry clerks who do work on the turnaround anyway. So what they do is the first thing they do in the morning is they do the TAPS updates. And they said, well, you don't need to know P6. You don't need to be an expert on scheduling. You just need to scan a bunch of sheets. So they do it that way. TAPS really helps with visibility, so you can get good earned value reports. And again, things will be done on time so management can see what's going on. The worst thing in the world is when you're trying to get reports out and the manager's standing in your doorway waiting for it. Lets you do better resource management, better crew forecasting, understand out of sequence activities, get our earned value reports by craft so we can see that the pipe fitters are doing badly in a particular area and we can try and understand why. So all these things are really powerful, and it's always nice to hear what your customers have to say about your tools. You know, we get some great feedback, and what we find with a lot of people is that they find that TAPS just makes their life a little bit easier every day, and it's already hard enough on a turnaround. So a few of our customers, we've got clients all over the world using TAPS. Some of our clients you may be familiar with, people like Shell. TAPS is an approved global standard application for Shell. It's used by many customers in many industries. Just to go a little bit in detail, Suncor Energy is a Canadian integrated energy company. They use TAPS in all of their refineries. In some cases, the foremen do the entry. Some cases, the schedulers do the entry. Sometimes data entry clerks do the data entry. And what's always good is when when word of mouth gets people using your tool. When Suncor sold one of their plants to Holly Frontier then rolled out TAPS across their entire organization. Nova Chemicals is a large chemical company, petrochemical company based in Canada. They've got plants all over North America. And what they found, probably their biggest win, was that they could bring a smaller crew in to get the updates done. So they didn't have to bring everybody in so early in order to be able to get everything done. So at this point, I'd like to open it up for any questions. If you have any questions, feel free to type them into the questions section in the chat. And we'll be happy to answer them for you. In the meantime, we haven't got any questions yet, but while I give you that time, I'll put our contact information up here. So here's how you can reach us. If you have questions that you'd like to ask offline about TAPS, or you'd like to see more of a targeted demo to sort of with your specific requirements, feel free to reach out to Mary Lynn. She'd be happy to answer those for you. Okay, so I'm not seeing any questions. So either we did a really good job of explaining TAPS, or we did such a bad job no one knows what we were talking about. So again, our contact information is here. If you do have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. We're happy to answer any questions that you might have. And with that, we'll wrap it up for today. Thanks for joining us. Have a good and safe day.